This is the best of Empty the Bench 2022 with Tom Albano, Nick Morgasen, and Nick Fodera. Grab some eggnog, don't let Grandma get ran over by a reindeer, and don't forget the milk and cookies. Happy holidays!
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
Yes, welcome everybody to the first edition of the best of Empty the Bench for 2022. I'm Tom Albano, that's Nick Fodera and Nick Morgasen. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are having a happy holiday season. Christmas is just in a few days. I'm very excited. You know, it's that great time of the year. And obviously for us, it's a time to relax a little bit and just look back on the year that was, in this case, the year of 2022. This year, we're going to be doing it in two parts. This episode will be focused on the first half of the year, and then next week we'll do the rest of the year.
Basically, as we get you ready for the new year, 2023, and a lot that's coming up for this show and the network itself, we're going to give you the best of the Empty the Bench sports headlines of the year. Some that are funny, some that are insane, some that are completely dumb that made you laugh, and many more in between.
And if anything, this year was, if it was the year of continuing coverage, the year of sagas, because you had the Kyrie Irving saga, which is definitely a part of this.
Don't remind me.
In multiple stages. We had the Deshaun Watson, which ended up popping up recurrently throughout most of the year.
I think that was the story of the year, was the Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, the story that we covered most. And we had, of course, big old gambling Dan Snyder. So that never goes away. But yes, this was the year where subjects tended to turn up like bad cases of herpes or bad panties.
Where things tended to linger.
They did.
By the way, I think we had more legal cases this year in the world of sports than I can count on my own two hands.
Yeah. Like farts in elevators, they tended to linger.
Ew. And ladies and gentlemen, Nick Fodera has begun.
All right. Let's not make people lose their appetites. Let's not make people lose their eggnog already. Let's just focus on the stories at hand. So we're going to start, of course, all the way back in the beginning in January. Feels so long ago. And it feels so long ago that, guys, our first big development was in what we think was the Antonio Brown drama, where he basically danced around while stripping off his uniform at MetLife and running away. And basically departing the Buccaneers in spectacular fashion.
I mean, was that at MetLife, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep.
Yes, it was.
It was against the Jets, right?
Yep.
Yes, it
At
was.
the end of the season.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This whole thing is insane. First of all, now ironically being the CEO of Donda Sports or whatever at this point, Kanye's company. But
on a long enough timeline, Antonio Brown just tends to show up at multiple points. He's like a gopher.
Although, you know what? After that game, we had not seen Antonio Brown on the field since, and it seems like he's not going to be on the field ever again.
I mean, Tom Brady basically gave him a golden ticket to come back on the field. And I think over the last couple of weeks, basically Tom Brady has tried to talk to him via text message, apparently, and said, stop your BS and maybe you'll get back on the field. Nope.
And he's basically thrown away the ability to get back on the field. He's thrown away that relationship with Brady. He's thrown everything kind of away, and it doesn't seem like he cares.
Let's just say he's been dicking around, no pun intended.
We actually do have some Tom Brady to go over as well, because it was during January where we got the notice of Tom Brady retiring, and then in the same episode, later that episode, towards the end, we found out, maybe Schefter spoke up a little too soon, and then, of course, he goes and tries to prove Schefter wrong, and he's having Tampa's having a pretty mediocre year.
I mean, let's put it this way. He won't admit it, but he's not going to admit it, but it's the money that pretty much probably brought him back. It's the love of football. Yeah, okay.
Well, funny enough, that same episode, we talked about Aaron Rodgers' future at the time because we were uncertain if he was going to return to Green Bay. And Nick Morgasen, you threw out one of the craziest ideas of the year that the Buccaneers, upon Tom Brady's retirement, should have potentially looked at trading for him.
RELAX.
I mean, by the way, you're going to hear a lot of that throughout these best ofs because that man has no filter and no way to control himself.
And what do the Packers do now? They SUCKS.
Well, and they're sucking upon $50 million a year for their quarterback.
But we didn't know that at the time. So just assume, of course, take that knowledge that they suck right now into the clip with you. You will have so much more fun with it.
Well, as we look at some of the other stuff that happened in the first 2 months as well, a lot of legal drama. You had Novak Djokovic at the Australian Open, who basically said, you know what?
Screw the vaccine.
F your vaccine. I don't need it. And as Nick would say, he probably thought it was going to make the lizard people show up or something. Or, I mean, so that was one other situation. Then you had other legal stuff, including Brian Flores with the Dolphins. And that whole situation, ironically, with who's the owner of the Dolphins?
Stephen Ross.
Stephen Ross, who was dealing with his own Hard Rock gambling scandal later on that year. And
we had MLB in its own scandal with the delayed spring training because this was lockout time.
Jesus, holy crap! Thinking back to that time of year when MLB and the MLBPA basically did not see eye to eye on anything whatsoever.
To think I almost didn't watch this baseball season because of it.
No, Nick, try to think back with me. And when Tom basically said, I'm boycotting the MLB season.
You know, it would have been good if you would enforce that boycott the second half of the season, at least for the Yankees. So
that's true.
Then you would have been spared a lot of agita. In fact, we all would have.
We had more debate about Rodgers and the Packers. Oh, February was when the James Harden Ben Simmons trade came to fruition, Nick Morgasen.
All I can say is that the Nets have been a dumpster fire ever since with that whole trade. Now, they kind of did the right thing because James Harden didn't really want to be there anymore. Now, ironically, he didn't want to be there because of Kyrie Irving.
Oh, and there's plenty of Kyrie Irving to go around. Not so much in this first 2 months, but there are plenty of Kyrie Irving this show and next show.
But that whole trade pretty much destroyed the Nets. And Kevin Durant has basically spewed his ego all over this team. I don't want to be here.
That's not ego. That's a mixture of vomit and sweat.
Well, and being hurt.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing. There was also the running gag, I think, of this show for the year. That's in the first 2 months with him acting Hamboys.
Yes.
That was probably, and that's always going to be a running gag. You'll get to know over this best of that there was quite a few staples of this show.
Quite a few running gags.
That's one of them. There's a certain
for worse.
For better or for worse, there's a certain one, which I don't know if we'll get to it in this part of the best of, but I'm sure we'll get to it along the way with a certain team in the Rockies, in the Rocky Mountains.
Second next week.
So we'll get to that one in the second half of the best of. But there's a lot to look at in this first half. More of the legal drama, more of the COVID drama.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're dealing with the first 6 months, and we went over a lot for the first 2 months of the year. So you know what? Let's look back on those now. So take a look, and we'll see you on the other side.
I've not necessarily defended Antonio Brown, but I've gone easy on him because it's hard not to look at some criticism of him as thinly veiled. Hey, loud black man must shut up. But at this point, I mean, if he needs help. He definitely needs help.
He needs mental help. He needs mental help. I'm sorry. I know you tell me that I shouldn't be making statements like that, but he needs mental health. There's something wrong in the man's head. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong.
Which, by the way, this does, like I said before, this does not let Bruce Arians and the Bucs front office off the hook at all.
He's a jerk. No. Did you see, and I don't know if you saw the Bruce Arians text, but he basically said that go get ready because we're not resting anybody. Well, who is he to judge whether someone is hurt? And then I don't know about the dangerous painkiller, apparently.
Yes, apparently. Well, again, context is necessary because Antonio Brown was accusing the Bucs front office through a statement by his agent of giving him not an illegal painkiller, but a very dangerous painkiller that is very highly regulated by the NFL, and you can't really use it willy-nilly. And they apparently did.
Wait, on the sideline during the game?
He said they did.
Isn't that like a violation of every medical profession on the sideline? If that's the case,
yes, which is why nobody looks good in this situation.
You know what, Novak?
I hate you. Get the out of here.
That's my opinion, and I happen to like Novak as a tennis player.
But they know if they kick him out, the gravy train comes to a halt.
But here's the problem. You want to know why they gave him an exemption? And this is my world because I played tennis for many years and I love tennis. I watch tennis. He's the number one player in the world. He brings the eyeball.
That's what I just said.
So
that's what I just said. They need him to play because it's like having an Open without Tiger Woods.
I'm telling you right now. Same thing with Roger Federer. Same thing with Rafael Nadal. Same thing with Serena Williams. They would have all gotten exemptions to the Australian Open if they were not vaccinated. I'm telling you that now. Because they were not going to let those names sit out.
No, they weren't.
And Novak, and finally, the Australian government finally came to its senses after acting like dumb shits and realized, oh, shit, wait a minute. He's not vaccinated? Maybe we should take back his visa and not allow him in. Ta-da!
It's like waking up from a bad hangover and saying, hey, where are my pants?
No, or it's like waking up from a bad hangover and saying, oh, why do I have an engagement ring on my finger?
Exactly. But again, all this could be avoided. One simple solution. Now I want you to listen close. Closer as you can. Get the fucking shot!
Yeah, I agree with you. And what people don't realize, when the COVID-19 pandemic started back in 2020, and I'll give people some passes because they didn't know what was going on with the pandemic, how contagious it actually was. He was going around and traveling still, not wearing masks. He caught COVID because he's an idiot. He's one of the few cases that caught it because I call idiot syndrome. Like I said in a minute, are they going to jerry-rig themselves out of this situation?
Well, Jerry's upset by the whole game, by the Cowboys' performance. He says there's gonna be changes. We're gonna come back bigger and stronger because how about them Cowboys?
That was good.
I didn't even mean to impersonate him. I'm just saying.
Wow, Nick broke out laughing for the second straight episode. That's impressive.
Oh shit! I've been government.
Now, all you need to be doing now is cleaning your glasses because that's what he would do all the time too.
I'm not even wearing my glasses this episode
because he sounds like that. Oh my god, he sounds like a toddler. Oh my god.
We them boys.
Oh god. But
Mammy. You're not fair.
What is going on here? I'm telling you right now, this is now. If we thought we were going to get blocked by the Giants, watch now. Now we're going to get blocked by the Cowboys.
Does Jerry have his own personal Twitter? Because I think we'll be blocked very soon.
Oh God. Okay, but long story short, I would just say the Cowboys are the Cowboys. They're America's team.
Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
We will never see the likes of him again. Never.
Probably not.
I know it's a bold declaration, but I'm telling you, we can't. The league has the league has changed too much, and B, he's just that good. And I think there's a I don't want to say a reflex on our part, but I mean, we like to make fun of him. I mean, because he's kind of goofy.
Right.
Goofy.
He's kind of goofy.
We're fans of rival teams, but
Right, I understand that, but at the same time, the guy almost changed rules in the NFL.
Yeah,
remember,
he
correctly, the tuck rule was because of him.
He literally changed the game. He changed the quarterback position.
I mean, first of all, like Nick said, you're never going to see someone be a 7-time Super Bowl champion. Really, again, there's too many good quarterbacks now. There's too many good teams. You're not going to see dynasties like they once were back then.
The best chance that we've got right now with the current crop of NFL quarterbacks is Mahomes, and his career has just started. So we'll see what goes on with him.
His agent is saying that he hasn't really made a decision.
I think this calls for music.
I'll go with this one. Wait a minute. What is his agent doing?
I mean, it's pretty obvious that Brady didn't want that to get out.
Or no, you know what he was doing? He was basically propositioning to see who was paying attention. But what the hell are you doing? Like, we need a shrink at this point to understand this.
What happens now? What happens with Tim? What do you guys see? Do you guys see them trying to trade up and go after in a quarterback in this sucky class just to get somebody?
No.
Or do you think they're going to trade for a veteran for now?
They may trade for a stopgap veteran.
I'm ready to throw you a wild theory. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Aaron Rodgers in a Tampa Bay Bucks uniform.
Oh my God! I didn't
think of that.
Perfect transition. Because we talk about Brady retiring, Roethlisberger retiring. We're questioning what's next with Aaron Rodgers. That possibility, that door is now wide open.
Oh no, I didn't even think of that. But yeah, good idea.
Did I just start a trend possibly on social media?
Imagine, wait, and if they're remember. There's another name that's being thrown around with Aaron Rodgers that would go with him wherever he goes, and that's a dear teammate of his in Davante Adams. Could you imagine Rodgers throwing to a wide receiver core that's Davante Adams, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin?
Hey, Drew Bucket on line 1, please.
They may just go undefeated.
I would go over to Gronk. Are you sure you want to retire? You don't want to be
sure you want to leave?
Wait a minute. So that theory wasn't crazy for a change?
No,
it wasn't crazy. In fact, it's so crazy it looped back around to genius.
Yes.
And think about it. We don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. It's the big mystery. But guys, we're all in agreement here. Rodgers is going to play another season.
Yes.
I think so.
But could you just imagine? Just put the thought in your second that he'd retired. And in one season, you lose Brady, Rodgers, and Roethlisberger after already losing in previous seasons Eli and Philip Rivers. Just the insanity of like that mid-2000s quarterback helm all going away.
But let's get to some of the Flores quotes.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this angle.
So Brian Flores went on CBS Mornings, which is the national news network show for CBS. And there's quite a few things that stood out to me. So one, he said, quote, "It's hard to speak out, but this is bigger than football. This is bigger than coaching." So his whole angle is, it's not just because I want to coach. It's not because I'm trying to change the game. I'm trying to make a movement to make things better again.
Exactly. And it's something incredibly noble of Brian Flores to do that, especially knowing he's putting his ass on the chopping block for this. Not necessarily
he already has.
But he's exposing himself to the same kind of blackballing that happened to Colin Kaepernick, and he shouldn't be. He's not going to be because again he told too many truths, and they're not going to like him for that.
Yeah, but I think the difference between Kaepernick and Flores, Kaepernick opened his mouth 1,000,000 times more than Flores did.
Yeah, but Brian Flores is now directly suing them. He's going for their wallets.
So did Kaepernick. Kaepernick sued him also.
He didn't sue them until after he was out of the league for a bit.
Well, he was trying to make a comeback, and then the lawsuit totally ended.
He was trying to make a comeback. I'm talking about.
Well, he said, "Well, Flores is still not in a good place here."
That's true.
Yeah, he's still not in a good place. And to be honest with you, he's right. He's right. I mean, there are only a handful of black head coaches in
Well, there's only one in the NFL right now, and that's Tomlin.
Yeah, and the fact that he's been pretty much the only prominent one in the last 20 years is not really a reflection on him. It's a reflection on who the NFL chooses to hire.
We have a flip. James, what I said that I couldn't imagine was going to happen has happened. James Harden and Ben Simmons have done a list switcheroo, and James Harden is now in Philadelphia. Ben Simmons is now in Brooklyn. So, gentlemen, the big three of James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, if in the 2 seasons that there was a big three existence, played 16 games together. And this season, they played all of 2 games together.
Count them off. 1, 2.
Are you okay, Nick? Are you
No,
okay?
I'm good actually, because believe it or not,
you look like you look like you were staring down, like you were having some bad images in your mind or something.
No,
some bad flashbacks.
well, Nick always puts bad images in my mind, but that's a whole different issue.
You called it though. You said it would. If it wasn't James Harden, it would probably be Ben Simmons that ended up in Brooklyn.
I mean, I didn't actually think it was going to happen, but now it happened. And you know what? And you guys are going to be shocked when I say this. I actually think it's a good trade for the Nets. The Sixers wanted 2 first-round picks plus for Ben Simmons. And guess what? The Sixers traded Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, and 2 first-round picks to the Nets for James. Wait. For James Harden and Paul Millsap.
So here's the thing that I'm having trouble with.
Okay.
Why?
So in other words, hold on. In other words, they wanted draft picks for Ben Simmons, and instead they gave draft picks to get rid of Ben Simmons.
I mean, James Harden technically was a draft pick at some point. Every player in the NBA was a draft pick.
You're missing something here. They wanted protectable draft picks, and they gave them away with Ben Simmons.
I do understand Nick's point, and I sometimes do agree with it. Like, we'll talk about Juan Soto in a second. You know, like when you see players rejecting these offers, and again, it goes back to what I was saying before. You know, some people's lives haven't recovered from COVID. It's like, I wish I made, you know, the amount of money we did. But now the owners in the most recent proposal have done something that, if you guys know, Nick, you guys know me about minor league baseball. Johnny, you don't know, I am passionate for minor league baseball. That have pissed me off. In that they are looking now to cut more spots and more teams with minor league baseball.
He lives in Staten Island.
I live in Staten Island. We just lost our team. We now have an Atlantic League team. So
see, I live 15 minutes from the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, which are the Class A affiliate of the Cubs. So absolutely, I know. I understand.
So you're ruining baseball for the local communities, and furthermore, the purpose of, I'd say, as bad as the 120 cuts were, part of the purpose of that was to, you know, bring the minor league pay up, because you were at the point where basically, you know, like 2019, I was working like 3 jobs and I was making as much as a minor league baseball minimum player. That they were in that bad of a scenario. Now you're looking to cut more. As somebody who loves the minor leagues, that's sickening.
There are some minor leaguers making between $10,000 and $30,000. You can't live a life on $10,000 to $30,000.
You can get more by working part-time. You can get more of that working at a fast food joint.
That's why I'd say, between the Juan Soto situation, between the negotiations that are going on forever, my team being a dumpster fire with money, and just the minor league treatments, that's why. I don't know if Johnny's heard me make that proclamation on an earlier episode, but if they don't agree on 28th, I'm done.
You know what's interesting also, and I don't know if you guys saw this on social media. Did you see the stuff that was going around about the Atlanta Braves and the profit that they made on their team as well, the $100 million plus in profit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The owners are complaining about the money, but you had a team that profited $100 million in revenue.
Won the goddamn World Series, and yet you're crying poverty. This is why all these margins are thinner. Well, you know what else is thin? The amount I care. The amount I care. I don't care. You can't make money hand over fist as you've been doing with TV contracts, with gambling, with whatever else, and then cry poverty.
Well, they're always going to cry poverty. That's the problem here. The owners who are billionaires, and this is not just baseball, this is any sport. The NBA owners cried poverty. The NFL owners who are mostly billionaires are crying poverty. It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. Plus, I mean, Tom, you mentioned this. Johnny, you mentioned this last week, I think. And families can't afford to go to games, and yet they're still rolling in. They're rolling in dough.
Think about how much going to cost with inflation and stuff right now. And then you're going to talk about inflating their contracts.
It's going to be. I was going to say it's going to end up being that a hot dog and a beer is going to cost $20, and all of that is going to go towards Mike Trout's contract or Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge's or whoever.
All of it is going to end up in Artie Moreno's pockets.
Right. Look, I said it on my Game On Monty moment the other day. I'm going to say it right now on the air. I don't care if these sides get a deal done while we're on the air. The damage to the sport, it's done. I mean, there is literally nothing they could do over the next 3 days. I don't care if they reach before Monday. They're not going to, because if you've been paying attention, the only thing that they've been agreeing on are things that are still not that are things that are going to alter the sport and still not major things.
There's no decision yet.
I'm a troll,
and that's what that is, because this man, we mentioned this on Beyond the Bench earlier in the week, but he's doing this shit on purpose.
Of course he is. On purpose. Come on. I mean,
RELAX.
Shut up! But
well, it's gone bad. It's like when he wanted to be host of Jeopardy. You know, we were making all about that. I mean, that's why when this post came out, I'll be honest with you, I didn't fall for it at all, because there was never the word retire in that lengthy Instagram post. And you have to also consider the source. It's not like Tom Brady when he had his long post. You have to consider the source. It's Aaron Rodgers. He's done this before. We talked about it before, how he wanted to be traded, or at least thought that he wanted to be traded. I still don't think he's going I still don't think he's leaving Green Bay.
No, but Tom Brady is too busy producing movies right now.
Yeah, that's true. They did report that.
The problem is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he is, let's just say, all the antics that he pulled off this season has greatly dampened any kind of respect.
Nick,
then
are you seriously going to say that nobody is going to want him on their team as a starting quarterback?
No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that.
No, but you're making it sound like it's a pretense for all the headache that he's putting everybody through. Like,
oh no. I'm saying whatever happened to this past season broke his brain. I've seen people go through bad breakups before, and they change people. But this man has completely gone off the deep end. No. He did a swan dive into the deep end.
Well, speaking of the drama with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, which we've seemed to have dealt with all year, not foreshadowing, this is us in the future from when those clips happened.
The answer is he should not have stayed. But you know what? As somebody who likes the Vikings, you know what? Good thing he did stay.
I digress, but I guess it's all about the money. But speaking of weird, dramatic situations, we look into the March and April months of 2022, and a lot of drama. The start of the 2022 MLB season was delayed due to MLB and the MLBPA basically jerking themselves off under the table and not wanting to basically do something for the fans. All they cared about is what? What is that? What do they care about?
Money!
So there's a lot of that drama there. Also, Derek Jeter out as the CEO of the Marlins. Now, not surprised. he wanted to spend the money, but Bruce Sherman was a meat shield and basically said that we bought it just to buy the team.
So Derek ended up becoming untethered from the Marlins, and you saw him more involved in the Yankees, and you saw more of him. But as the year went on, but at that point, it was a seismic shift because we thought that, Derek was going to leave. I thought that was his baby. But again, it really does seem like with the season the Marlins ended up having, it doesn't look good that you fired him like that.
No, it's not good. And we all think that he could end up doing something in the Yankee organization at some point. Well, will that actually happen? It's going to be on Derek's terms, not the Yankees' terms. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
Also, Tom's take on Watson being a bad fit for the Browns. Now, this is when the beginning of all this weird drama started with...
Yes, this is when the trade happened, when they traded 3 first-round picks to the Texans for Watson.
I mean, that kind of sounded the alarm. I mean, what a mismatch of a trade, by the way it looks now.
And on the other side of that, you had the deteriorating relationship between Baker and the Browns, which, of course, Baker was still a member of the Browns at this point.
Well, let's say one thing. We all knew Baker's time is basically coming to an end at some point.
Well, Baker didn't help himself by playing through the injury last season. However, to replace him, say you want an adult as the quarterback and then replace him with Mr. I have a hard time with female
keeping my hands to myself.
Yeah. Maybe not the best optics.
Maybe not the best option, but look at I mean, he's not even starting for the Panthers right now after they traded for him. So
who knows what the heck the Panthers are doing right now? They're in
the Panthers. The Panthers are a nobody organization, and on top of that, they weren't even willing to trade DJ Moore for prospect pieces. Okay, so whoever the Panthers are, will the real Panthers please stand up? Please stand up. Yes, I stole that from a song. Yes.
And then sit back down again.
Well, then March also had probably one of the takes of the year where you said after the Tatis motorcycle accident, that the Padres should cut Tatis.
I mean, in my opinion, out of the 2 best of that we're going to be doing, that's probably got to be the moment of the year, in my opinion.
Keep in mind that you're not clairvoyant at this point, so he had no idea what was going to come down the pipe later. So this seems remarkably prescient because you really do have that ability, Mr. Dick Morgasen. You have the ability to make takes that sound bad initially, but then they get better and better and better. And then
I know it's such a weird.
2 years down the road, they end up being good takes. So what does that tell you?
I mean, not to rehash it for the millionth time again, but the Mets take. That's all I'll say.
But March also provided us with quite the underdog moment. I think one of the underdog moments of the year, if not the absolute, with St. Peter's, local team here over in Jersey City, reaching the Elite Eight, just falling short of the Final Four in the NCAA March Madness tournament.
Would you say that kind of reminds you of, what was it, Leota was the one that was, or who was the team with, I can't remember the older woman that was rooting?
Sister Mary Jean?
Yeah.
Was
that Leota or was that another team?
I think that was... I don't think that was Loyola.
That might have been Loyola.
Loyola Chicago. I'm thinking of Loyola, Maryland. It was Loyola Chicago.
Because that was a whole big thing. That's what this kind of reminded me of partially. Like the big underdog story. I think, what did they make, the Final Four of St. Peter's?
Elite Eight.
Oh, Elite Eight.
They just finished just short of the 4.
By the way, still think about it. The amount of money they probably earned for the school anyway.
But all the players eventually left because they all got the NIL deals.
Well, and the coach. Remember, the coach got a big job, I think. And I kind of felt bad for the players because, again, you have a coach that's really on your side. Now he takes off. I forgot what school
St. John's, I think.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right. But, hey, good for him. He got a high-paying job out of taking a team that was not expected to go anywhere.
Seton Hall, not St. John's. Seton
Hall. Oh,
right.
Thank you.
Hey, those are 2 big schools anyway. I mean, but that was incredible. And then we move into April, Now things start to get a little messy with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I mean, the NFL saying they had no timetable, us debating about who the bad guy was with Baker and the Browns. This is where basically the shit started hitting the fan, and it did not stop. It continued to go through for the rest of the year.
I mean, another thing you probably heard throughout the year was this.
Congratulations, dickweeds.
You probably heard that a lot this year with some of the dumb things, especially Deshaun Watson. You probably heard that a lot if you go back through the year archives of the best of Empty the Bench for 2022. But yeah, the Deshaun Watson investigation became nuts to the point where we were spending, like 40 minutes of a show breaking down all the news when Deshaun Watson stuff was breaking? We did a whole live stream on it, if you remember.
And we were still dealing with the aftermath of Dwayne Haskins dying. So we were still dealing with the fallout from that.
Well,
in terms of Gil Brandt and everything else.
That story was just bizarre in a lot of ways. So reportedly, Dwayne Haskins walked across a busy highway and he got hit by like a garbage truck or something.
But this is stuff we did not know at the time. So
no, but I'm saying, but why was he randomly walking across a highway that no one will understand?
Yeah, you won't find out.
And then also, apparently, the girlfriend allegedly was there, but really wasn't there when they called 911. Like, that story was bizarre in a lot of ways.
Sad, kind of really sad. Also, guys, in April, we also were dealing with the Ukraine-Russia fallout, and probably the biggest topic of that we covered was when Wimbledon announced that they were banning all of the Russian athletes.
I mean, I get it and I don't get it in some aspects, because they had to do it because Russia was destroying the world, not just the U.S. or Ukraine, everybody. Like, they were affecting everybody around the world.
But it was also, not that athlete's decision. He was not the one he or she were not the ones who said, you know what, I feel like invading Ukraine. So.
Well, I feel bad for the athletes because, again, like you just said, the athletes don't have control over what their asshole leader does to other countries. So,
you say that now the Vladimir Putin's going to ensure that we're not hurt in Russia ever again.
Fantastic.
I could give two shits about Russia. Anyway, my point is, it was a horrible situation. We saw it a lot in tennis. A lot of the athletes could not compete at Wimbledon. Wimbledon, I think, self-imposed their own ban, if I'm not mistaken, before that even was a thing. Now, I don't know. There's so many other stories. We had AJ Perez on in April, which, by the way, is a friend of the show. We've had him on quite a few times for investigative stories over the years.
And this was the start of, obviously we've been following Dan Snyder's things for a while now, but this is the year, of course, that it reached a new level, and it began here with the, there was initial reports about him holding off money from the other owners.
Well, also the season ticket holders' money and just not giving the percentages to the other owners, like you said. You had the cheerleaders' weird situation that he was putting hands on cheerleaders' laps while at dinners. And
if you're using this show to catch up on everything you may have missed, rest assured that Dan Snyder will show up again multiple times during this year.
Let's put it this way: Dan Snyder was a big headline in the second half of this best of.
Yes, he was.
I mean, there was a few other things. Mike Tyson apparently punched a man on a flight.
Yeah, as Mike Tyson once said, I think social media has gotten people a little too comfortable with being assholes in public.
I mean, that was incredible, and now I remember the video in my head where he basically got up and threw a bottle at him. And by the way, I agree with Russell Westbrook had this happen to him during the pandemic, where someone threw a bottle as he was going through the tunnel to leave the court. We had the discussion about the tickets. What does it say on the back of your ticket?
That basically you could be ejected for any reason.
You could be ejected and no refunds for any reason.
And the fans act like, well, I don't know why they eject me. Blah, blah. You can't be stupid. It's basically a liability protection on the back of the ticket.
There was some whimsy though for the month of April because we did have their debut with the K-Rod cast.
I mean, you know what, though? I got to give them credit. It's gotten better over time, but it's still not watchable. They think that they're the Manning cast. They're not. And then probably one of the stories that the three of us have been on for quite a few years, the Trevor Bauer story with the Dodgers.
I mean, we had Michael Duarte on in 2021, and eventually it came down that he was going to be suspended for 2 years. So honestly, who knows, guys, if we're ever going to see Trevor Bauer.
His career's over. His career's over. I mean, and by the way, the Dodgers probably avoided a big money payday that they had to give him also, probably due to all the investigative issues. And by the way, you want to check out that interview that these two guys did with Michael Duarte from NBCLA, I think is where he was from. This man probably knew every nook and cranny of this situation.
He really gave us some trenchant insight. And
it's almost like he was there, like in the courtroom.
He was there.
No, but I'm saying like every second of every moment of that situation.
Well, yeah, this is what we do at Empty the Bench. We give you what you need to know when you need to know it before you even know you need to know it.
But that was probably one of the better interviews done of last 2021. So if you want to go check that back out again, please do, because it was really well done.
But right now we're focused on 2022, and right now we're focused on March and April. We just ran through a whole,
a lot of investigations, a lot of deteriorating relationships. So we'll show you the clips. Try to pay attention because there are some interesting points of view we hit in these stories. And would you agree with me? We don't do things in the generic. We try to break them down from different points of views that people don't see.
So I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
So try to stay with us in our points of view because we don't look at things from a Manila point of view. We try to break it down on a different level. So go check these out. When we come back, we'll finish up part 1 of the best of Empty the Bench 2022. What people are also ignoring, especially from the MLB owner standpoint, it took them 43 days to get to the table to have a first discussion. 43 days.
This happened December 2nd. They were locked out. Yeah. December 2nd.
We had 2 months. We had 2 months.
You're telling me you couldn't get your asses down to Florida?
No, you know what it is,
Nick?
Nick?
Point during that interim period and start talks?
No, Nick, I'll tell you exactly what that was. It's the owners feeling pity on themselves because they feel as the rich, less than 0.1% people out there, they believe it's their way or no way. That's what it is.
Exactly. If I may paraphrase Shakespeare, it's crying poverty and let slip the dogs of self-pity.
And by the way, the one thing that I will give the partial benefit of the doubt to the owners is that there was a COVID-ridden season of 60 games. I understand that. Now, technically, they could have had 100 games if they actually got back to the field when they should have. That's a whole different issue. But
we can't have nice things, so.
But I understand why the owners are partially upset because they only had a 60-game season. Now, the least you can have is 156. Now, and most of those first 2 series are divisional games.
I don't even know if it's going to be 156 because now a report that came out last night is that another 2 weeks of spring training has been taken out. So you're not going to see the first spring training game. You can't see it until March 18th, the earliest.
That was semantics because the spring training was officially kind of canceled anyway.
Okay, but my point, this goes back to what we were talking about in the live stream deck. That means goodbye March, goodbye April, and most likely goodbye. We're reaching now goodbye at least parts of May now. And
by the way, I think I brought this up also. Buster Olney, who's been on this from December 1st of all times, he talked to a sourced agent. I don't know who it was, and he said goodbye until Flag Day, June 14th.
Derek Jeter is a man who spent 30 years as a part of the New York Yankees system. And what he understands is you spend money to make money. That's how the Steinbrenners did it. So if you're going to metaphorically ride the nickel and dime express, it's just it rings hollow, and you lose a lot of credibility when Derek Jeter steps down. Believe me, you brought him in as we're serious now.
Well, I would debate that partially because Jeter was only a 4% owner. Bruce Sherman.
You don't think they brought him in as just to say that we are serious about baseball now?
Jeter wanted to be in ownership for a long time.
Oh yeah,
Jeter
he always did. Now I know. You know what he did in Miami originally at the start was not received very well when he basically.
That wasn't all his fault, though.
Maybe Jeter wasn't the best owner. Maybe Jeter, you had your doubts, and maybe Jeter didn't come off great. But Jeter understood, as Nick said, as he's learned here in New York, sometimes you have to spend money to get to the top. And the Marlins are proving to be an example of these owners that are causing the issues, in which they are putting the money that they're getting from the revenue sharing into their own pocket and not spending it on their players.
By the way, Derek Jeter played his hand early, trading Stanton to what team? Let me hear you. What team?
The Yankees, but Nick, remember something. It was Stanton's choice. He had a no trade clause. They wanted to trade him to St. Louis originally, and Stanton told them.
Yeah, but he could have just said no and stuck the contract out.
Again, I really don't begrudge him that. What I begrudge the Marlins about is, again, this is how he understands how teams are supposed to be run.
And Nick, we need to remember the history of Marlins ownership. They were known as the team that constantly sold off after winning a World Series.
First of all, $230 million, a fully guaranteed deal on a quarterback who hasn't seen the field since 2020. So what happens if Deshaun Watson comes on that field that first game and just, needs time? And it sucks. If you're the Browns, look at yourselves, even with Deshaun Watson. Then look at your rivals at the Bengals, who just went to the Super Bowl. Then look at your rivals at the Ravens, who have Lamar Jackson. And then you have the Steelers, which, the Steelers are an iffy bit anyway. But
hey, honestly, Mitchell Trubisky, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
But answer yourself. If you're looking at the Browns, answer yourself. Do you really have what it takes to defeat the Bengals, to defeat the Ravens, and to sweep 2 games against the Steelers? My answer is no.
It's obvious that they didn't think they did with the pieces that they had in place with Baker.
Well, you want to talk about pieces in place? Let me go in there. You have Deshaun Watson. Congratulations. But let's see. Odell, you gave up to the Rams, and he went on to win the Super Bowl.
Landry, who they just released.
Landry's requesting a trade.
No, he released him.
Well, but regardless, Landry's not going to be there next season. Rashard Higgins is gone. What paces do you have? What receivers do you have to throw to him?
And by the way,
like him in Texas in 2020 all over again.
By the way, if I hear one more analyst, oh, well, we're the top 5 team, we're big defense. If I hear that one more time about the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to snap.
They do have a good defense,
Nick. They do have a good defense, but it's not. My point is, it's not going to be enough. And furthermore, so congratulations, you got Deshaun Watson. A great quarterback arm, but you're forgetting something. The scheme in Cleveland is run first by way of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So you're getting a quarterback in a run-first offense. You are going to be wasting his potential if he is as good as he was when he was with Houston, or you're going to be changing the offensive scheme, which is going to be good for the likes of Chubb and Hunt. What are you doing over there in Cleveland? His shoulder was a little messed up, and they kept throwing him out there
in a torn labrum. They kept saying, "Oh, you'll be okay. You rehab. You're an NFL player. You're a tough guy. You can handle it."
I agree from the optics of they needed an upgrade at quarterback. I agree on the optics of Baker Mayfield, maybe not as good as of that quarterback draft list in 2018. But I feel like the Browns still did him a disservice. I feel like the Browns, and I think it's pretty clear by this move for Deshaun Watson, the Browns, they don't have the halo and wings. They are not, they are not the good guys.
They're not the innocent ones. They're not.
Let's make something very clear. Baker Mayfield has done a lot of dumb things, including in college. And he went on Colin Cowherd's radio show, and they talk about the whole incident where he's kind of running allegedly from the police in that video at night. I mean,
I thought you, was he the one who grabbed down his crotch or something during?
He did that too. That was after the touchdown celebration in Oklahoma, I think. But he's not. Anyone that thinks Baker Mayfield is the guy with the wings and the halo, you're obviously delusional. I've never seen Baker Mayfield before. Now, like Nick said, when you're replacing him with somebody like Deshaun Watson, who is an alleged domestic abuser, you can't win here. So the Browns are sending Case Keenum to the Bills for a 2022 7th-round pick.
That's worth the breaking news banner.
Yes, it is, because it makes no sense. They're doing all this stuff around Baker Mayfield.
Breaking news: Browns continue to Browns.
So then the backup quarterback in Cleveland is Baker Mayfield.
That's the reason why I brought it up. There's a reason why I brought it up, because they're doing everything around Baker Mayfield except trading him.
No, you're going to stay in the backup role, and you're going to like it. Vinny Testaverde much?
Why?
They should cut his ass and get rid of him.
What?
They should cut his ass and get rid of him.
You're ridiculous.
Really?
No, I'm not.
Ridiculous.
No, I'm not.
You are ridiculous.
No, I'm not.
It is ridiculous.
3 months compared to 12 years, and the fact that he's the star of this team and all the ability that he has, and he's the star of the sport, and you think they cut him and they get nothing in return?
It's irresponsible as an athlete.
It is irresponsible. I get it, but it's also irresponsible to cut him, cut
No,
one of
it's
the best
not.
players in baseball, and get nothing for him.
No, it's
Out
not.
of your mind?
No,
You're
I'm not.
Stupid.
I
You're
am not.
stupid.
I am
Yes, you
not.
are.
No,
Yes,
I'm
you
not.
are.
No.
You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. He didn't kill anybody.
What happened?
I understand. That is a low bar to clear. I understand. And he could have killed somebody.
Multiple accidents, though? This is not a first-time incident.
Exactly. I see that point. I do. But knowing
they've
what we
told
know
him
about
no
how
more.
Major League
But they've
Baseball
told him no more.
operates.
The $330 million investment. Do you realize how much, how huge that is?
Look at Mike Trout. Okay, look at Mike Trout. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. They're with the Angels. They're two of the best players in sport today, but they can't get anywhere because the rest of the team around them sucks.
Well, that I agree with you. But
So if you're telling me Fernando Tatis Jr., the fact that he's missing three months, okay, but guess what? If the Padres can't win without him, then the Padres are not a team that deserves to win.
I don't think they deserve to win. They keep bringing in all these guys and they can't figure out how to win with them. All this money. They're trying to dump Eric Hosmer. I'm just saying, it's ridiculous.
My point, Nick, is I understand that what Fernando Tatis did is irresponsible. But the fact that he's only going to miss 3 months and he's still one of the best players out there in the sport, you can't just go and tell the Padres to release him. The Padres are releasing or trading Fernando Tatis. You are an idiot.
No, I don't. Would you be saying the same?
are.
Would you be
Yes,
saying?
you are, Nick.
Wait a minute. Would you be saying the same thing if he was out for the full year?
Yes.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Then they get pegged as a 15 seed. Coming on Kentucky. Okay, we know what's going to happen here. This is the big job matchup to get Coach Calipari and, the Kentucky, the big powerhouse, into the next round. No. St. Peter's pulls off the upset. Then they take out Murray State. Then they take out Purdue, which means they've taken out a 2 seed and a 3 seed. And now they're about to play North Carolina for a spot in the Final Four. So
I think there's momentum too.
They have momentum. Doug Gator, getting the NIL with Buffalo Wild Wings as a result of what he's been doing, as his sharp shooting and his personality. And speaking of personality, I just love how Shaheen Holloway, shows off his guys. Like, we're not underdogs. We're just playing how we play. We can win this.
I mean,
Can you imagine-
nobody expected them to do this, so they're pretty much playing with house money the entire way. And can you imagine the boost that the school is going to get from this?
They already have. They already have.
Yeah, they already have.
And by the way, I think the best matchup would be Duke St. Peter's if we got to that point.
I that's the thing. I know everybody is kind of, I shouldn't say everybody, but there are people out there who are hoping, for a Duke UNC Final Four matchup because Coach K is retiring. And yes, that would be great. But I think, I don't know if it's just local and, alumnus, bias, but I feel like St. Peter's Cinderella run is just more better of a story because we can always have Duke UNC any other year. Something like what's going on with St. Peter's might come once in a lifetime.
That's what's great. That's what it shows off the potential of what the March Madness can be, and what
Exactly.
yeah, that's what it's all about.
Oh,
It's
by
about
the
where
way,
anything could happen. So if I may use my bullshit to English translator software here,
okay.
I'm taking that statement to mean we haven't conducted an investigation. We're not going to conduct an investigation. You're going to get nothing and like it, you fucking losers.
No.
Wait a minute.
Here's what they're gonna do. They're gonna sit back and wait. They're gonna wait for the civil matters to, finish up, and then 4 games or 8 games.
They just need to figure out which 2 checks they're going
Yeah.
to
Well,
they're
actually-
going to deduct from Deshaun Watson's massive salary.
Actually, I have a bullshit to English translator.
Congratulations, dickweeds. I mean, first of all, what the fuck does that guy know? I mean, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, we've already established multiple times on this show that they couldn't give a shit less about any of the women in this case.
No.
They really don't care. They are staring at their watches, tapping their feet, waiting, counting down the hours, the minutes even, when they cannot have to care about this and get back to selling the Deshaun Watson Brown jersey.
Anthony Mara has an idea. They are gonna roll the dice and see how many days it lays on. Perfect.
Come on, Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. 2 weeks.
Inflation.
I got craps. As Aerosmith once sang, same song and dance.
Yep.
Let's see. Anthony Price. The NFL is fun and stupid. Let's not hire Cap, someone who just stood up for the people in service. We don't care about players with rape cases. Yeah, go play. We don't talk about female feelings.
Well,
the ramblings of I'm just gonna call him an idiot. At this point, there really is. I mean, you thought Adam Schefter couldn't read the room. This is a guy who walks into a room with the lights off. Jesus.
I mean, this wait a minute.
Sorry,
This literally. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Gil Brandt's 90. God bless him, former NFL executive. But, read the room.
Wait. How about literally leave the room?
I mean, first of all, you have to go off on a tangent on some kind of bowling party you had.
No, wait a minute. Wait, hold on. So, Nick, would you classify that as getting up on a soapbox?
Yeah, he's getting up on a soapbox, but everybody else is going, get off!
I mean, I'm trying to be nice here, but what the fuck?
I mean, you can't. Even the most charitable interpretation of what we just heard is, yeah, he's blaming Dwayne Haskins for what he did. Yeah. I mean, it's a tragedy he died, but it was his fault.
All I can say is right now,
he shouldn't have left school. Then he wouldn't have died.
Oh, wait a second. What do you think SiriusXM is thinking right now?
That he better not be allowed on any program ever again.
So we don't know how much they held back, but from what it looks like, it would not be that much. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, which sound for us it's a lot of money, but for the NFL, these owners, not that big of a deal. But the bigger deal is if the NFL Player Association jumps into this, because if this goes out over multiple seasons, if the NFLPA, which does have rights to the audits, if they find something there, that could lead to some kind of intra CBA changes. I think there could be they can come and amend anything they want anytime, even though the CBA is set. That that's been done over the years. That's for example, HGH testing was put in the last CBA after it had been ratified. And the NFL players fought for, going back to Gene Upshaw, fought a long time not to allow them to have any kind of blood testing. If what I'm hearing and how they work this scheme, this alleged scheme, there could be ways they're going to be changing the audit system. I think that because the way this is explained to me from a couple sources, it was done in a way that where it wouldn't raise suspicion. As far as an appetite to, throw Snyder out, I mean, this is a headache, and he's given the owners a lot of headaches. But right now, one of my sources said it's like, unless the owners rise up and there's a block of them to push this issue, it's not going to result in removal, even if he's linked to doing what I reported last Saturday. It's still, because it's, they stick together. Being an NFL owner is like being justice on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So you really have to do a lot to get removed. It's never happened in the modern NFL. It's happened in other sports, but the setup is so much different. Goodell could put him up for a vote for removal. It's not going to happen. Maybe if he had 30 other owners plus the Green Bay Packers who are publicly owned on their side, 30 plus the Packers, maybe Goodell would step up. But it would, the most likely route, if he's linked to anything like it would happen with Richardson, in Carolina, he'd sell the team. So, but we're so far from that, and as of right now, Snyder's pretty well entrenched.
I hate to say you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but he's either banished to football Siberia, which is, being backup quarterback for the Browns, or, toiling in the purgatory of Jaguars football, and no one wants that. So,
No, because the Jaguars are not going to get rid of Trevor Lawrence anytime soon. I don't know where Baker's best fit is right now. Right now,
I'll give you one. I have a bold one if you want it.
Uh-oh.
Baker should go behind Tom Brady and sit behind him in Tampa Bay.
Sit behind him for a year and then take over?
Yes.
That actually makes a weird kind of screwed up sense.
My problem...
It's actually not crazy.
It's not, but the problem is because it's not considering you're going to have Godwin and Nevins.
The weapons are there.
The problem is Nick. The problem is I don't think Baker wants to sit behind somebody for. I think he wants to be. I'm gonna get what you're saying. Yes, it is better for him, but I'm saying Baker. This is like what I remember, like back in the Unspoken podcast days, where we always talk about Cam. I always said Cam is a guy who will not sit behind anybody. He wants to start, and I think Baker is the same way. He wants to start regardless of where he is.
Sitting behind Tom Brady for a year requires humility, and I don't think, based on what we see in that interview, that Baker Mayfield knows what the taste of humble pie is.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Either he goes and he sits behind Tom Brady, or he's out of the league, like Johnny said. That's the possibility he's going to run into.
And we don't know really about Deshaun Watson's capabilities. Maybe he still is the Deshaun Watson from 2018, 2019, or maybe he's regressed. But we're not going to know until he's back on the field in a game. And why are you handcuffing, your best positions on the offensive side of the ball with your running backs and Chubb and Kareem Hunt? Why are you handcuffing them? Unless you're going to have the best defense in the league, you're not going to be going anywhere, because the Browns are probably going to be a bottom 10 offensive production this season. That's a hot take for you. When I'm turning into something like a K-Rod cast or a Manning cast, I want difference.
You want national, first of all. That felt so local on ESPN2 during the broadcast.
And we'll see, how attempt 2 goes tomorrow when they're doing an NL West battle.
They're doing the Padres and the Braves.
When it's not a New York-based team.
I'm going to tell you right now, Michael Kay is going to be so confused sitting there tomorrow, considering that he doesn't. He's called national games for the playoffs many years ago for ESPN Radio.
I think tomorrow is going to be the true test.
Someone someone tell A-Rod to stop being fake during the broadcast. I'm getting a little tired of it.
I mean, he only has that robot only has 2 settings: fake and off. So.
It's so corny.
Well, Nick was right in the beginning, because I think in the beginning it looked like Kay was just doing play-by-play, and they were tested right away because you had that comebacker that hit comebacker that hit Montgomery, so you had like a pause for a couple of minutes, and then they brought in the big guys, but. Trying to do a Manning cast in baseball is very, very difficult. So
it's very difficult from the point of, first of all, the whole point is Michael Kay is not supposed to be doing play-by-play. They want a conversation. They want 2 guys sitting at the bar. Now, the difference that most people don't know about between the Manning cast and the K-Rod cast, the K-Rod cast is owned by ESPN. The Manning cast is owned by Omaha Productions, which is the Manning's production company. So the Manning cast is controlled by the Mannings.
In other words, this is an ESPN production, and they're doing ESPN things.
Yes, most people don't know that. People think that, oh, it's the K-Rod cast and they have control. They don't have control. ESPN does.
The kind of person that I am, I should be saying 2 wrongs don't make a right. But my God, just what kind of sane human being decides,
I'm going to annoy
Mike Tyson, the one-time undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, who has done some dangerous shit and bitten off Evander Holyfield's ear.
And he's done some crazy.
Oh, wait a minute.
To people.
Oh, wait a second.
A man who once said on national television that he would eat somebody's children.
But I was going to say, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 rights make a left.
Yes, thank you for that, Cosmo.
But I don't know. The way I look at this is, if this guy, like,
how do you not know it was him?
No, they knew. And honestly, here's my whole question, and I think it was kind of answered. I'm actually taking this from a conversation that Michael Kay and Dylan McGregor were having on their radio show. If you are that friend, if you are the friend of, that person who got beat up, why are you putting out that second video?
I don't know if he was a friend. I think he just happened to notice that he was a reporter and a TMZ guy. And then
TMZ acquired the video from a friend.
Oh, did they?
That was recorded from a friend.
So if he's somebody's
and
friend,
I think Don answered it perfectly. Because if you saw, did you see that expression on the guy after he got beat up and he was posing for the camera? He got his 15 minutes of fame.
No, it wasn't even that. Wait a minute.
Really seemed like he was pleased with the outcome of getting.
Wait a second. You're forgetting something else too. It's not just 15 seconds of fame. What do you think people do today when they're around celebrities? They're looking for a bag.
I mean,
yeah, well, you know what? The way that that all this video and all the circumstances that come out across social media, like, again, it goes to what I was saying. If only that one video got out of Tyson, wailing, he may have had a shot. But after that video, now according to CNN, the original plan was that if any Russian or Belarusian athletes came out against the attacks and came out against Putin, which is, if you guys know, Putin is a very brave thing to do.
Yes.
They would be allowed to compete. And then CNN, according to them, Wimbledon said, yeah, you know what? Never mind. You're all just banned.
So I know it's difficult because you can't ban over the athletes because, the all Russian and Belarusian people weren't clamoring for this war. I mean, you can't blame the people for the actions.
All you got to do is look at these videos that have been coming out of the Russian people who are protesting.
Yeah, and it's stupid to me to punish even vodka companies or
especially but especially when you say, if you speak out against Putin, and again, speaking out against Putin is kind of dangerous.
It's a very dangerous thing.
Well, I'm the big tennis person here, and I hate to say this, but Wimbledon can't do this. They can't do this. This is not fair to the Russian athletes. I understand what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. You can't do it to the athletes who work hard all year. It's not right.
You can't, because what do you think that the Russian?
This reminds me, guys. Sorry, this reminds me of the boxing situation we had last month, in which one organization was trying to strip all the Russian fighters of their rankings and championships.
And that's wrong too.
Well, ultimately they decided, you know what? We're just not going to basically sanction any events in Russia, which I think...
Wait a minute. Let me ask something here. So just because they're from Russia, that means that that's their opinion on world matters? So you're going to punish every athlete?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm just saying.
No, that's their thinking.
So just because they're not, since they're from Russia, that's their opinions? That's like saying that we're from here and we think everything is bad, so they should ban us.
You guys pretty much said it best. He's pouring gasoline on a fire. Like, he's already making himself look even worse than he already is. And somebody should have told that idiot, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will hurt you in court of law.
Now, on that note, we should clarify. The police department have decided they would not. That they decided this a couple of months ago. They would not pursue any criminal charges. The court, even before then, the court had refused to give the woman who was making the accusation that Trevor Bauer is now suing. They refused to give her a restraining order. So everything court system wise has gone Trevor Bauer's way. But the difference is, and even Duarte even kind of referenced this. This is a Major League Baseball investigation. And for when a league is investigating, it does not just revolve around a criminal suit or a civil suit. It also revolves around, as we mentioned, the damage done to the sport, the situation as a whole, the fact that he even is involved in this mess because, again, he put his hands on a woman, consent or not.
I mean, I'm going to steal a reference from Game On because we've done this over here. I'm going to steal this because it took this long. It took this long for Rob Manfred. This should have been done, not missing 99 games, which everyone is for some reason bringing up that number that he's missed 99 games.
Because they think it could count towards his suspension, which it's not going to.
That's the surprising bit.
First of all, Trevor Bauer doesn't deserve any benefit of the doubt. The way he's handled himself his whole career, nothing.
Well, Nick, to go off of Nick Fodera's point, if you remember, was it Ozuna's suspension where it was retroactive?
20 games.
So he could come back right away at that point. So the expectation was they were going to pull some strings.
And maybe do like 140 game suspension. And then he'd only have to
do some weird walk around.
Okay, so rounding out the first part of the best of Empty the Bench for 2022, we've got May and June, and like switching up Manila with vanilla, there is a lot that was topsy-turvy this year. So we started off with Ben Simmons getting surgery and Kyrie Irving saying that he was a quote-unquote martyr. Now, taking this within the context, of course, context is always necessary. So taking this in the context of what he said later, this is the hors d'oeuvre. This is the least offensive thing he said throughout the course of the year, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, Mr. Nets fan having to relive his team absolutely collapsing throughout 2021 to 2022.
Oh, God. That never gets old. Just never gets old just seeing the puss on his
I
face.
just don't get it. I don't get it with this Nets team. I don't. I'm so depressed as a Nets fan.
You know what? Just admit you'll never get it, and you'll be a lot happier. Believe me. There are things I'll never understand about the Knicks or the Rangers.
But at least I think the Knicks
about it.
But I think the Knicks at least have some promise. I thought the Nets had some promise, and now they're blowing it up like a bad movie review.
That's not promise. That's a mirage. I guarantee you.
I mean, you know what? Or they're too busy on something.
Stay off the weed. Duh.
we also had the WNBA in the wake of.
Oh God! Speaking of weed.
Oh God!
Oh wow! I didn't even plan that. I did not even plan it that way.
Oh God!
We
didn't mean to make the bad transition. He did it. But we did have the WNBA chiming in with their always useful opinions on in the wake of Brittany Griner being arrested and subsequently imprisoned in Russia. And
there's a lot with this story. A lot.
Yeah, it's a debate. Yeah. It's a debate that you guys didn't shut up about for weeks, here or on Beyond the Bench.
I mean, there's a few things I would say about this. One, Kathy Engelbert is the worst commissioner in all of sports. I didn't think I would say that, and for her not to basically sit silent. Oh wait, Adam Silver's sitting silent too. So basically, they're not doing anything.
I mean, it's the NBA and the WNBA. They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand in terms of basketball, and they go hand in hand in terms of shitty commissioners.
But this was bad. This story, if most people who don't know the story over the year, Brittany Griner went to Russia because, again, the WNBA doesn't pay players enough money as compared to the NBA. Remember they did that weird comparison with LeBron making $40 million and Brittany Griner making $220,000?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's bizarre. And then, so she brings her luggage into a Russian airport. They check it. They found the cartridges. And
she's still in prison. So,
and since then, we have not seen her back in the U.S. since.
But it wasn't the end of controversy, at least for this month, because we had the tragic events in Uvalde, Texas, and Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors, had frankly an electrifying speech he made to the media, and
he did. And let's be clear, also, and I'm with him on this. Screw the media. I don't care what their thoughts are on, like, if it's taking too long or if it's not politically correct. It's a situation that affected not just the world of sports, it affected the world as a whole.
That speech showed the kind of human that he is more than the coach. And I like the human Steve Kerr.
And everyone was like, it's too political. Shut up. No one cares. The media sometimes acts like politically correct and then when other things happen, then I don't know what you're talking about.
Speaking of media firestorms, we have, rounding out May, we had the controversy of the Yankees third baseman and noodle-armed choir boy Josh Donaldson had for calling Tim Anderson of the White Sox Jackie during
which he claimed, by the way, that he's been doing.
So again, future context. In that clip, we are blissfully ignorant of how his bat will just pull a disappearing act in the playoffs, and he becomes persona non grata.
But we knew what he did was wrong.
Again, what he did was wrong, and it really should have been the warning about the season he was going to have.
Right, but forget the, as they say in the NFL, the X's and O's on the field. It has to do with person as a human being.
Well, the whole thing was Tim Anderson calling himself the new Jackie Robinson, which, I mean, it seems like that part of it was true, and for Tim Anderson to do that was a bit of a, let's say,
questionable.
A little bit egoish in itself, but
a little bit,
and questionable.
But what Donaldson did was wrong as well.
We try not to both sides things, but I mean, Donaldson was clearly in the wrong.
Well, and then he got suspended for a game. I think he appealed and lost, if I'm not mistaken. Also, by the way, when you're appealing, you're doubling down that you didn't do anything.
Exactly.
Donaldson collapsed. The White Sox themselves collapsed in this season. So that was a story that just was the beginning of a whole bunch of shit.
Not that we're talking like full sports here, but the White Sox, probably who were supposed to be up there as one of the better teams in MLB, were a shit show.
Speaking of things that are brown like shit, the Cleveland Browns also made their way into the June coverage.
Yes, more Watson shit.
More Watson, and again, this was the tango that we were kind of dealing with here, between will they trade Baker, will they get Deshaun Watson, what are they going to do?
By the way, I had a heck of a June.
Yeah, let's see. A lot
of the clips that we're going to show you that were in June are Nick Morgasen heavy. So,
I mean, and you know what? I see the first one on the email that Tom sent of clips, and I look back at that partially, and I say, I might have been a little bit angry about the Baker situation and the whole Watson thing that was foreshadowing. But at the same time, I feel like Watson, and now when we look at it in the future sense, Watson got off way easier on certain aspects than Kaepernick did.
Again, this is the benefit of hindsight. It's 2022, but the hindsight is always 2020. So
not the year 2020 though. That was a whole different best of.
Yeah, that was a complete shit show with a capital shit. But we were also talking at this point. It was the emergence of the LIV as the direct threat to the dominance of the PGA, and it really does seem like the Sturm und Drang of the LIV kind of petered out. It's like they're not making headlines. It's like all of a sudden, like
right
by the time the summer was gone, they weren't talking about it anymore.
Now let's go back for a second, and I have a few things to say about Watson, but what I'll say about this is, do you remember when they offered, or reportedly, because no one can prove it, that Tiger Woods apparently was offered $750 million to come play on the LIV tour?
Yeah.
By the way, and I know, Nick, you've had massive opinions on the LIV tour, obviously because it's run by a certain organization that's come after this country for a long time, and I agree with you. Right. You're telling me if $750 million showed up on your table, you wouldn't even you wouldn't even think about it?
As I said at the time, and you'll see in the clip, Tiger doesn't need the money.
No. I'm asking you as a person, that I'd say you wouldn't even look at $750 million.
I would look at it, but you know what? My conscience would win out because that's the pesky thing about having one. You tend to feel feelings.
Now, I'm not saying that you should automatically just say, "Here's the money, take it," but I'm saying logically in our own heads, we would be lying to ourselves if we didn't look at the money.
Again, it wasn't something that. Of course, you look at the money, but again, it's the relationship between money and the powerful that became a recurring theme, which leads us.
Speaking of money and power.
Oh, Jesus!
Now, we don't really get a chance to talk a lot about the inner workings of the WWE, but when it does, boy, do we love to take advantage because Vince Tiberius McMahon, the ousted CEO and founder of WWE, was ensnared in a hush money controversy, and
That's being nice, by the way.
we didn't know it at the time, but he was kind of getting kicked out the door.
We said that. We said, has this been the biggest threat to his power? And I'm like, oh, I'm not sure because nothing happened with the steroid trial of the '90s. Well, we didn't know how much it would devolve into, which actually starts off part of the second half. Next week's best of.
I mean, this whole situation. Vince has been in the rumors for many things for years. I mean, and also, let's get something very clear. The family is still in charge.
It's kind of funny though that this is what takes him down.
But I mean, yes, the family. I mean, Stephanie is the CEO now. Triple H leads creative, and
you don't think behind the scenes Vince is like, psst, do this, do this.
I mean, they're doing stuff on television that Vince just would not do. So.
But I'm saying he's whispering behind the background.
He could try. He could try, but ultimately he has no say. He has some financial power, but in terms of creative direction, but I mean, guys, Nick Khan. I mean, this guy comes in
from super agent to running the WWE.
Yeah, within the span of 2 years.
And by the way, just in case people don't know, Nick Khan was literally the super agent across multiple sports.
Yeah, it was. Talk about an amazing rise. But rounding out the month of June, we also had to go back to Deshaun Watson because the suspension, I think, had come down at that point. And
there was a debate over the suspension. You had what was the name of the judge again that we were shitting all over?
Sue L. Robinson. Now the decision this decision didn't come down yet, but we were debating about how long it should be, and I had made a mention of the lack of a long suspension would be a bit of an awful look for the NFL. We were talking about can the Browns find a home for Baker? Should they find a home for Baker? Nick Morgasen, you even had a whole rant about, if Watson didn't claim to actually hurt anybody, where's the defamation lawsuit?
Well, right. And I still stand by that statement because Deshaun basically came out, what was it, in March when he met the press and basically said, well, he was basically acting coy, not saying anything and pretending nothing happened.
If I did something bad, I didn't mean it, and if I didn't do something bad, you're trying to blame me.
It's the OJ excuse when he wrote the book. Well,
what if I did do it? Wink, wink.
Well, no, he wrote the book. If this is how I would have done it if I did such and such things, and measuring the glove. I'm like, way to incriminate yourself.
Yeah, but that was that was the year in review. So you know what?
Well, that's the first half.
That was the first half. So take a look at those clips. We'll be back in just a minute to wrap things up. Go ahead.
In my opinion, they lost the James Harden trade when they got him, and now they've lost the James Harden trade when they got rid of him.
I wouldn't say they lost it at first because again, like I explained to you before the show, that if you think about when James Harden was traded from Houston to Brooklyn, James Harden was a number 2 because he couldn't be a number 1. If you asked him to be a number 1, he couldn't be a number 1. KD was number 1, and Kyrie was the 3 in a sense, and that was their roles were subjected. And then once Kyrie basically said, "Fuck everybody, I'm not playing because I'm not getting a vaccine," that's when it blew up.
Yeah, but don't you think the valuable players that they traded in that deal could have helped them too? Like a Karis LeVert and a Jared Allen.
Nick, should I go back to what I've even said about Harden during the Unspoken podcast days? To my very harsh take. One of the most, if not the most overrated player in the NBA.
James Harden is the leader in the clubhouse of going to clubs and partying. That's where his championship rings are at, not on the court.
Yeah, just he goes out of nowhere. Just goes, oh, I'm gonna, not playing this game, and I'm gonna go out to a club after the game.
He made more headlines in France, basically getting allegedly arrested for doing something in France than he did in the U.S.
Jeez.
Okay, that's where the guy's head is off somewhere in a foreign country, partying in a nightclub, not on a court playing basketball.
Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving's brain is as flat as he thinks the earth is.
Oh my god, this is just an absolute mess.
If you have a 1A and a 1B, that's where your team leads, and then you have a bunch of guys, role players that fit around the 1A and the 1B, like Tom said.
I think that's what it is. It's the emphasis on role players.
Brittany Griner went to Russia. Now, you have to remember, even the best of the best WNBA athletes don't make enough money in support of what they could be making. So she went over to Russia. She plays on one of the teams in the Russian league. And I don't care if you're famous or not. How stupid can you be originally to carry hashish in your luggage?
I mean, yeah, that really does seem like a mistake. But, she's... If I was the WNBA, I really would be thinking about maybe we really need to pay these people more so they don't have to take off-season jobs in foreign countries, especially not in Russia.
It's not random jobs. They're going to play basketball in other countries.
Yeah, exactly. Going so you don't have to go play, basketball in other countries just to make ends meet. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we have been introduced into our newest political football, and that's Brittany Griner. So she is now becoming a political prop for Russia, who's dealing with the war in Ukraine. And I know we promised to keep politics out of this, but
this unfortunately kind of took us there.
This unfortunately kind of took us in that direction.
Now, there's another part of this too, which is that Russia wants one of their political prisoners, but not political. They want one of their prisoners back that the U.S. has.
Yeah, one of their citizens. So, honestly, I really don't think the government's doing everything it can to try and get her back, because I would rather not see her languish in a Russian jail for the next couple of years.
No, I get that, but at the same time, she kind of did this to herself. We have an HR 8, which is the protective document.
It's a background check law, and it's a red flag law. So it wouldn't go as quite far as some people are advocating for right now, but it is better than what we've got, and it's been collecting dust in the Senate for about 2 years now.
I think he's right, though. We have 50 senators sitting in power who don't want to protect kids.
And I know
they're responsible for this. They're responsible for letting 19 kids die.
Exactly. And and it's easy to feel powerless.
Yeah, but you know what?
But you're not powerless. Because if you can give those senators, think about what Chris Murphy did. Think about what Beto O'Rourke did. You need to, because it's not just waiting until November and voting. No. You need to be able to get to where they are and not give them a moment's peace until they hear your voice. They can't ignore you forever. They work for us, not the other way around.
It makes me worry. Again, like I say, my 3-year-old nephew, my 1-year-old niece, this could be them here on Long Island in New York.
It could. And it's, we should not have to live in a world like this.
We literally just had a New York shooting.
We just had a New York shooting.
We should not have to live in a world like this, but you know what? We do, and we have to do something about it that's just beyond vote in November and thoughts and prayers. No,
you know what? I need to say one more thing as well. This is not a Republican, a Democrat issue.
No, this is a bipartisan failure.
This is a failure on the country itself to protect people. That's what this is. I'm sorry. Excuse my politics. It has nothing to do with it. This has to do with protecting kids. That's what this is. I feel bad for Tom, too, as a teacher at a school where this could be happening. That's what I'm talking about here. I don't even know how you would react if this happened in a school you were working at.
I don't imagine how I'd react.
I don't take any issue with what Tim Anderson said because, again, baseball players in hyperbole, that's, to me, no different than what Reggie Jackson did in 77 when he stirred the drink.
Agreed, but you do open the door. And to be fair, it happened with Reggie. Reggie got all sorts of shit.
I hate to say this, though, but at the same time, like you were starting to say, Tim Anderson brought this on himself back in 2019.
I don't think there's a difference between joking with somebody who you consider a friend and somebody who is not your friend.
I'm not arguing that Josh Donaldson wasn't
right. I'm not disagreeing, but at the same time, when you print something in journalism, Mr. Journalism major at school, you should know that it follows you for life.
I'm not even saying that. There's a difference between his teammates calling him Jackie and Josh.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. No. First of all, that would be offensive from anybody if anyone said it.
Yeah, exactly.
So then why are you saying it's different from his teammates than it would be from Josh Donaldson?
That not necessarily calling him Jackie, but ribbing from his teammates and ribbing. Like I said, he called him Jackie to be a dick.
Right, but you can't give
an asshole.
You can't give special prevalence to certain people.
You can't give special prevalence, but there is such a thing as intent.
No, obviously. I'm not disagreeing.
The context and the intent in which the word
right,
is used.
But what Nick just said is that it's okay for his teammates to joke around about it, but Josh Donaldson's not. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Not if he and Donaldson aren't on good terms.
No, I agree. But I'm saying no one should be joking about Jackie Robinson like that.
And honestly, I would have suspended him for a little bit longer. I mean, of course,
why?
Why?
No.
Why? What does that accomplish?
I'm not as cynical as the two of you, and I do think she will be home at some point because, again, she's too valuable as a political football to be. Because really, that's what this is. They're using her as a political prop, and believe me, it's not fair. It's completely unfair. But I do think that, again, in the game of politics. Politicians like Biden and Putin, they're undefeated in that bullshit. So
yeah, but here's the other thing, and I said this last week, and Nick and I agreed to disagree partially on this. She was carrying hashish in her luggage coming into
yeah, but it doesn't make it fair, though. I mean,
but Nick, you know that the rules for drugs in different countries are different.
Did we not learn from LeAngelo Ball?
I'll go you one better. She shouldn't have even been there. She shouldn't have even had to go to Russia.
Nick, you can't.
Again, the WNBA really, I mean, she's making.
Nick,
she really should be making enough money that anybody should, that they shouldn't have to play overseas.
Nick, you said it last week. She's allowed to make whatever choices she made with the drug. So why can't she make whatever choices she makes to play where she wants?
She shouldn't have to do that, though. She wouldn't do it if she was making enough money.
In other words, Nick's saying that she should be able to make a decent living off her WNBA salary.
And not that I agree with the money issue, but she's making $228,000. That's not nothing.
It's not nothing, but again, it's not after taxes. It's not necessarily, especially with inflation and everything. It's not going to be enough.
And I agree with you.
I was going to say, Nick, I agree, but you're not going to stop. But that's not going to answer the equivalency issue.
If the Browns were smart, they would name Baker Mayfield the starter for the whole year.
But they won't do that.
And actually, I'll go one step further. And again, you might call me delusional when I make this statement. The Browns should bring in Colin Kaepernick.
You are delusional. Ooh. I would do it, but you're delusional if you think that Jimmy Haslam is that. If you really think that man is willing to be that altruistic to a man of Colin Kaepernick, a man who was blackballed because he said, you know what? Can we start treating people of color like actual human beings in this country? And you know what the resounding response was? No. You really think they'll do that?
Nick, can you do me a favor? Can you explain it a little further? Because I'm trying to do the calculus in my head, and I'm like, wait, how does this make any sense?
I can smell wood burning. His brain is turning over in his skull.
I'm just saying, because Colin Kaepernick backup, I could see Baker starting, Colin Kaepernick in as the backup.
Are you saying then, hold on, are you saying then you see Deshaun Watson getting suspended for the year?
I think it's very possible, considering the more that come out against him. The NFL doesn't want to take the PR hit. I'll tell you that right now. So the NFL is going to get pressured into suspending him for the year.
They are going to get. I mean,
especially, I'll give you one better. All the female protesting groups are going to come out of the woodworks, and I don't blame them either. By the way,
I don't blame them either. But
I don't blame them either. I don't believe him either. But I don't know if you say the NFL and PR hit. I don't know if Roger Goodell and company give a shit.
Look what happened. Wait a minute.
I just said they're not going to care.
Wait a second. I'll give you an example. When Michael Vick had his situation with the dogs and the dog fighting, what happened to Michael Vick? You didn't see him. I mean, I know he went to jail, but at the same time, the NFL was not going to let him play. It's never going to end. And you know what? Deshaun Watson, who I guarantee you that Roger Goodell, again, who's sitting in his bubble bath eating popcorn or bonbons and watching this whole thing and saying, hey, he didn't get criminally charged. That means I don't have to suspend him either. And then I get all the value that I want.
We've seen the NFL come down hard on those who aren't criminally charged, though.
No, but Roger Goodell's going to say, you know what? Since they let him off the hook, I can let him off the hook also. And he can make all his money, too. I don't care about that.
Please see under index Mr. C. Ridley.
I mean, I said it in the intro. You heard me say it from last week. Calvin Ridley got a year for a gambling suspension. Deshaun Watson should be banned for life. This goes back to the Roger Clemens defense when he was accused of PEDs and he went and took the stand and defended himself, and he ended up winning the defamation case that he brought against McNamee, I think, and ended up winning. If Deshaun Watson believes strongly that he didn't do anything, and the New York Times is complete bullshit, if that's what he's saying, he should be taking all these different things into court with defamation cases if he believes that he didn't do anything.
The burden of proof falls upon Deshaun Watson to prove that what he did not occur. And based on the evidence that has been already presented at this point, I hate
you
to
have
go
to think you have to think something occurred.
You have to think at least something occurred in the strictest legal definition of the term itself.
I'm telling you, the shaggy defense, like you just said, does not work here. It does not.
It really doesn't. And to be honest with you, I mean, how much? Like I said, I'm where you are, Tom. It's like, how much longer can this go on?
And how many more are we going to see come out over once this show airs? I guarantee you, another 3 or 4 are going to come out.
We mentioned the Texans. We're talking about potential penalties that Deshaun is facing with suspension. We're talking about the Browns and the contract. Let's talk about the Texans and the draft picks. Depending how this plays out, could we see a situation where the NFL looks at these 3 draft picks and then says, yeah, we'll take this one or we'll take these 2 because of this mess?
Unfortunately, I think everyone needs to be punished in this situation. Everybody.
How many draft picks should they be penalized then?
The whole deal should collapse. I'm saying. I think everything should be taken away. The contract should be taken away. The draft picks need to be taken away. The Texans knew what was going on and they didn't say anything. So they need to be penalized also.
Whether they knew and did nothing, or whether they deliberately ignored it, ignorance is not an excuse.
No, wait a minute. How could they have not known? He was using Texan security and NDAs.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So, of course, the Texans knew.
There's no way it wasn't known to several important people on that team at the time.
And believe it or not, the Texans owner should be penalized as well.
But
you're penalizing the team. That is
no. But I'm saying the owner should be hitting the wallet separately.
But Roger Goodell, we know him.
Because this is bullshit. Like, the owner knows when something goes down where a player pulls off an elaborate Ponzi scheme is what I like to call this. The owner knows about it. Because if the owner doesn't know about it, that's even worse. He's saying people shouldn't apologize for being on the PGA Tour. Who are you? Who are you to say who should apologize for being on your tour? That's like saying I'm daddy and you're all the kids and you need to apologize for me because you're a bad kid.
Or stay here because we won't have any connection. The PGA Tour doesn't have any rumored connection to the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
By the way, I've seen dumb commissioners, and we've talked about Rob Manfred a lot. This takes the cake as the dumbest thing I've heard.
And do you know what the screwed up part, gentlemen, is? The biggest golf outings, like the U.S. Open, Wimbledon. Did you guys know that the PGA is not in charge of those? Which
They're not
means
sanctioned.
That means the PGA cannot ban these LIV golfers from those events.
One of them is going on right now as we speak.
So they can do so the players can do pretty much whatever they want.
You know what the most awkward thing was? Phil Mickelson showed up for the event, and it was awkward watching him being interviewed by the media as they were going through there. And I'm like, you know what? Phil should have just said, F you, and said, I don't need to say anything to you. I'm making my money. It's supply and demand. That's what I say the LIV Tour is. If they're willing to offer you more money for the product that you're putting out, you go where the money is.
Am I wrong to still feel kind of icky about it?
I guess you could, but at the same time,
I think you still could, considering the circumstances of where the money is coming from.
Yeah, but at the same time, and don't get me wrong, I don't like what the Saudis obviously did.
Yeah, because to blame Saudi millionaires and the Saudi government, they're two different entities here.
Right, but at the same time, for Jay Monahan, the dumbass commissioner of the PGA Tour,
for him, hey, competition. Here you go.
No, but I was going to say also that for him to come out and basically shame people to stay on the PGA Tour and say, well, I had family members pass away. I totally sympathize that you had members pass away. That's not my issue. My issue is that you're shaming people to stay on the PGA Tour. Shaming them.
I think to a certain extent, the fact that we as a collective kind of turned Vince McMahon into this kind of cartoon character, the gruff, blustery, like, I'm Vince McMahon, damn it. To a certain extent, I think that is covering up or papered over a lot of the really sordid, horrible shit he's done.
Yeah.
I think you're being nice.
To women, yeah.
To women, you have the Ring Boy scandal of the early 90s involving Pat Patterson and such. You have him allegedly maybe playing a role, not confirmed, but allegedly playing maybe a role in the cover-up from Jimmy Snuka when Jimmy Snuka went on trial in 2017 for the murder of Nancy, I forget the last name, his girlfriend at the time in the 80s when Nancy had passed away. And then, of course, the steroid trial, which I think this is actually the biggest threat to Vince's power since the steroid trial of the early 90s. But you say accountability, but Nick, he has made appearances on SmackDown and Raw. Laurinaitis is on administrative leave, but Vince is still on the creative team. You have Stephanie at the head, and do you really think if they make a big decision, it's not going to go to Vince?
It's all going to be Vince.
Yeah, that's precisely what I mean. There is no accountability. There, WWE,
Vince
is WWE.
This little statement that he made on his appearance on SmackDown and Raw, as bizarre as they are, you know what the purpose of that was? He's saying you're not going to get rid of me. Daniel Snyder, Robert Kraft, and Jerry Jones. Daniel Snyder, for all of his controversies, from the cheerleaders to the culture within the organization,
just skimming off the top with season tickets.
Wait a minute. I'm going to go back to a point you made to me last week.
No, I was just going to go there. The
Okay.
only argument there against the NFLPA when it comes to that stuff, and actually I should mention Robert Kraft first before I get to that point, because Robert Kraft, what was it months and months ago that he got in trouble for? Well, it involved a massage parlor.
Same thing.
Yes.
But I will say
Wait a minute. Like minds think alike.
Like minds, thankfully you said, because I don't know about the term great.
No, I didn't say great. I just said like minds think alike. That's
yeah. What's it called? No, but The only thing that goes against the NFLPA at this point is, gentlemen, we're talking about Roger Goodell, and we're talking about suspensions, and we're talking about Goodell can't screw this up. Who does Roger Goodell work for?
I know. We've said this a million
He works
times.
for the owners, including Jimmy Haslam.
But here's what makes no sense.
Wait. But
What?
not only the owners, but we're going to get to a point because we have talked about this, not on camera before, but off camera leading up to this. We did talk about, he could, first of all, like you said, Nick, Jimmy Haslam is one of the owners that he works for, so that'll make things a little more interesting. But keep in mind also, something like the NBA, we're making comparison because we say, Adam Silver banned an owner for life, Sterling. But what is the NBA?
The NBA is a players' league. Yes, I know.
The NFL is an owners' first league.
But here's the problem, though. If you're not going to punish owners, which, by the way, that's the NFL's fault for not punishing the owners if they thought they really did something.
Oh, if this goes out of their hands to an arbitrator, and Deshaun only gets like less than half the season, honestly, that is the NFL's own fault.
Is the NFL going to have the walnuts to do what's right?
No. Hell no.
There's going to be no settlement here. Either it's going to be he gets off scot-free, which I don't see happening, or he's going to get a massive suspension. It's going to be one or the other. There's no settlement here.
I know the NFLPA is doing its job. I know the NFL hasn't had a great record of discipline. But if you're telling me that Deshaun Watson could get off scot-free when we've got Alvin Kamara going off, getting 4 to 6 games, when we have DeAndre Hopkins, another one of the best players in the league, who's going to miss at about half of the season because of performance enhancers.
Well, PEDs are different because I think they have rules in place for PEDs.
My point, Nick, is, and I'm not trying to compare crimes. I'm not trying to say all of the women who have come forward against Watson are telling the truth or are lying. But when you have a guy like Alvin Kamara, a star of this league, who is going to be out for about a quarter of the season with an assault, and about half the season for DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best wide receivers in this league, who's going to miss games for PED. And then Watson, who has dragged his name. Because remember, NFL suspensions also are about, we've discussed this on the show before, how much they're dragged in the mud. This case, this allegations, it's been over a year now. All this dragging, all of this drama, all of these women coming forward, and Deshaun not getting anything, that does not sound right in my book. My point here is the NFL, for all of their disciplinary problems, this is a chance that they have to finally put a foot down and say, we're not going to fuck this up. And this kind of suspension would be, and I said this in the minute that I did recently, this would be that first step. Are the Panthers really going to be going anywhere?
No, hell no.
I mean,
that NFC South division, now that Brady is back, that NFC South division's a one-team race. Let's be honest. That's the Buccaneers division.
I still think the Bucs would have been the best team almost anyway, even without Brady.
Now, granted, that's an interesting point, but now granted, there's Seattle. Guys, do you remember how last season, how wild the NFC West was? Russell Wilson and Chris Carson getting hurt, them coming back late to try and do some sort of push. The race between the Rams and the Niners. With that kind of wild division, and the Seahawks still have DK Metcalf, and they still have Tyler Lockett, and now in terms of running backs, they still have Carson, I think, but they also drafted Ken Walker. You're going to need a quarterback there in order to, still compete in a wild division like that. Now, granted, Baker Mayfield is no Russell Wilson. But Baker Mayfield is still a, legit, still a what's the word?
Is still a legitimate. He's still a. I wouldn't even say competent. I'd say he's still a talented quarterback.
Talented,
he can still play.
Okay, there, and talented quarterback who can throw the ball to Lockett and to Metcalf, and also. Again, we're talking about Walker and Carson. Guys, Baker Mayfield was just in a system for a few years now that was run first with Chubb and Hunt. I think the Seahawks make a lot more sense for a temporary home for Baker than it does in Carolina. And honestly,
but they're not going to pay the money.
Okay, but listen, but if such a trade were to happen and Baker ends up, and doing fine over there, maybe the Seahawks do give Baker another year or two. Then they do give him a contract as free agency.
They got to find someone to eat part of the money.
So that was the first half of the year for 2022. Next week, we'll cover July through December. Guys, we're just a few days away from Christmas. And actually, this is one of those years where Christmas and Hanukkah are kind of intersecting. So this is one of those years where all the holidays are intersecting. So we should take this time out to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy whatever it is that you celebrate.
What is that? Happy Christmas, Hana Kwanzaa, or wherever they
Christmas,
say.
Hana Kwanzaa. I say Happy Christmas, Hana Kwanzaa.
So yeah, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy being with
or
family.
even if you celebrate Festivus, that too.
Just don't ask Kyrie Irving; he'll tell you that his religion doesn't accept it.
Oh God, we'll never get away from that. But yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
But the content actually does not end. Yes, we're doing best ofs, but we still have our NFL picks weekly. And tomorrow, guys, is very special for us because tomorrow is our last live stream special for the 2022 NFL regular season. And it involves the Jets on Thursday Night Football versus the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wait, are the Jets still going to be competitive at that point?
I mean, is it a lump of coal or a candy cane stocking? We'll find out.
I mean, yeah. So make sure you tune into the stream. We'll be on 15 minutes beforehand. Actually, this is a little bit earlier because the game starts earlier. But we'll be there. Be there. Be square. You might need some drinks to watch the Jets, though, at this point. But in the meantime, this is the end of the first half of the best of Empty the Bench for 2022. Make sure you tune in next week as we take you all the way to the end of the year. We will officially say goodbye to 2022 for Empty the Bench and the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. And we will take you into 2023. We will even tell you at the end of the second half of the best of what's coming up in 2023 for this show and the network. So make sure you stay with us and we will bring you a lot. So I guess we will say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Until then, Tom Albano here with Nick Fodera and Nick Morgasen. See you next week. Continuing on with the best of Empty the Bench 2022. Happy
Good night,
holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Good night, everybody. Happy holidays.